Hi Jonathan, lovely to meet up with you again and do some further work on your game. Just a quick recap on the key points that we covered. First of all, it was tidying up the backswing. The backswing was in danger of becoming a little bit of a caricature, in the sense that the left tilting aspect and the weight moving forward and the left knee flexing was becoming excessive. And then we'd get into a better position towards the top. You can see that first move, left knee flexes way too far forward, too fast. And it was just a sequencing issue more than anything. The position you arrive in at the top was pretty good. It could just be done in a little bit more of an incremental manner. The thing with stack and tilt is, the thing to remember is that the weight is forward at setup, and we want it to stay there all the way to the top. We don't have to push it further forward during the backswing. We may suggest that to some players who struggle with a little bit of a movement off it. However, in your case, that's not happening. So really, we just want to become a little bit more incremental. So what I did was I put the cane across the front of your head and asked you to make some backswings. In order for your head to stay in exactly the same position, you need to turn, tilt and extend at the correct rate. If any aspect of that movement or those three movements is excessive, it will cause the head to move in some direction. So all we're seeing here is a very similar move to what we made at the start in regards to where you arrive at the top of the backswing. It's just that you've created it in a more incremental manner. We then touched on what the left knee should do. In the early part of the swing, you will see the left knee working down the toe line, if you will, as the left shoulder works down. Then as the hips start to turn more, you will see the left knee working inwards. And as long as when the knee's working inwards, it's also flexing forwards, as you're demonstrating there, then you will stay in a stable position at the top of the backswing. So your left knee in that instance is working fine. It works down the toe line initially, not as excessive as at the start of the session. Then it starts to work inwards and flex forward, thus keeping you in a very stable position at the top of the backswing. In regards to your shot control, big issue comes when the club drops beneath the hands too fast, gets behind you a little bit too fast. We can see that the right heel comes up too fast, so there's a lot of extension going in there, pushing up out the ground. Now, a lot of guys use that to get the club on the inside because of the way, the way golf's been taught. The positions that you've been asked to create over the years have required you to extend quickly to prevent the club from coming too much on the outside. With stack and tilt, that's not the case. We're promoting less of a movement off the ball. We're promoting more hip turn on the backswing. We're promoting a slightly deeper top of the backswing position. Therefore, you don't need to help the club come from the inside. It will be coming from the inside almost by default. So what we're seeing here is a move where we push up too quick. The club gets behind the hands too much. At impact, we see a right arm that's very flexed, and then we hit out with quite a high rate closure. So what we started to talk about was the idea of hitting a pull. You can see I've got the cane to the left of your shoulder here, trying to lower the exit. One of the drills that you can really sort of, if you do get a chance to go to the practice ground, spend a lot of time doing this drill, where you try to lower the exit. By lowering the exit, you will start to, or by hitting the pull shot, you'll start to see certain things take place. You'll start to see the right shoulder work down and around more. You'll start to see the right heel much flatter through impact. Sorry about the lag on the video there, we're just going to get back. It's quite a big file, this one, we had quite a few shots on it. We start to see the club become more in line with the hands in delivery, drop less behind the hands at delivery. You can see how much more in line that was then. We start to see the club drop beneath the right forearm in a much more gradual manner. You know, you're getting the sense that, you know, we want things to happen incrementally within the pattern. Whenever anything has to happen excessively, then it can lend itself to being mistimed quite easily. So what we're going to see here is a club that is not as far from the inside. We're going to see a right elbow that is not as flexed at impact, so your alignments are much better. There you go, more in line at 6. Coming into the golf ball, we're not coming as much from the inside. None of these shots were pulled, by the way. They were more pull draws, which is to be expected originally, just until you get used to it. The task of hitting the pull, the task of lowering the exit, will start to really familiarise yourself with the feelings required to produce the shot pattern that you want. So we just take your original swing back to impact. You start to see that there's a marked difference between these two swings at the moment of truth, if you will. Right forearm not as flexed, shoulders opening up more, right foot not up as much, etc, etc. In the real world, done at speed. So we've had about 30 minutes practicing lowering the exit. We see that extension still in there. We see the right heel pushing up a little bit too fast, which will start to diminish as you work on the drill. You can see there that doing the drill, the right foot's starting to stay down on the floor for longer. The club now is not quite as far inside at delivery. And as we come into impact, we're seeing that the body's starting to open up. The right arm is not quite as much below the left arm. Now, you know, if we look at this position here, when we're doing the drill and when we're hitting shots after doing the drill for 30 minutes, we're starting to see a big move away from where you would normally be. And then doing this for 30-40 minutes produces a slight change in the actual movement. So gradually over time, the more shots you hit, working on the idea of the feel of hitting the pull, the more your swing will move towards the alignments that you see on the top right. So we need to be adding more and more of what we see on the top right into your swing. When you do that, you can also see that the right heel is not up as much at impact. And again, there's a little bit of that going in there. So we've got start the session, right heel very high, doing the drill, right heel just off the ground. After doing the drill, right heel still too high, but not as high as it was at the start of the session. So just keep adding more and more of the drill. Keep working on the pull shot. It's interesting that, you know, when trying to hit a pull, you're out your comfort zone. I've been doing this with a guy recently, a guy called Dominic Monroe. Some of his recaps will be on the channel. And he found it very, very difficult to hit that pull because he was so used to having the club on the inside, closing down quickly through the hit. And it took him a number of weeks to get where he can hit a pull intermittently. But one thing he has commented on, that when he goes out and plays and just swings, the amount at which he draws, pushes and hooks the ball has reduced dramatically. So it's not necessarily all about hitting every shot perfectly in practice. It's about cultivating the right moves via the drill. So the drill is task driven. In order to hit a pull, the player's rate of extension must slow down. The player's forearms must be more neutral at impact, and the face angle must be shutting down much less. So keep plugging away at the drill, keep trying to hit that pull shot. As you do it, you'll start to see some subtle changes in your mechanics as demonstrated here, and then gradually we'll start to move more and more towards what we were seeing on the top right screen during this recap. Well done. Look forward to working with you again soon. I'll forward some dates over the coming days for 4 or 5 weeks time. Well done.